time to look at some of the stories in the news today. 5 years since the pandemic, what impact has it had on the nation's health? For many, COVID is a short-term illness, but for some it can become a chronic condition. It's estimated around 2 million people in the UK are still living with long COVID, experiencing a wide range of symptoms. Let's welcome our next guest. Oonagh Cousins was a Team GB rower, selected to take part in the 2020 Olympics, but by the time they took place, after being delayed for a year, she'd contracted long COVID and had to retire from the sport altogether. She's now an ambassador for the charity Long COVID Support. Morning, Oonagh.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, and so sorry to hear your story. That is really, really tough. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing better, but I'm still not recovered. I still deal with symptoms on a daily basis. I can't work full time and I can't do any physical activity. So yeah, still managing the illness.
Talk to us about, if I can put it this way, the before, Oonagh, the before COVID, what you were like, what your life was like, what you dreamt of doing.
Yeah, so I was relatively new to the GB rowing team, I was training 16 times a week. It was my profession. I dreamt of going to the Olympics. I trained very hard to get selected, and yeah, I was really pleased to have achieved that. And I kind of expected to continue rowing. Dreams of Paris and LA in 2028 as well.
Let's go back 5 years to that moment when Boris Johnson and the team leading the government, had held those news conferences and said, there's this thing and we've all got to, keep a distance, stay at home, work from home, all the rest of it. I mean, we knew there was something there. Do you remember how you felt at that point? You didn't have COVID then. How did you feel about what was going on?
Yeah, so I actually did have COVID then, but I didn't realise. We had just got pre-selected for the Tokyo Olympics, but it was also the pandemic was kind of hitting at that time and it was all over the news, and it was very bizarre. And I thought I had a mild cold, but looking back, I was actually really quite sick by that point already.
Gosh.
And it was just really bizarre because it was meant to be like, I remember this day really vividly. We were all sitting on the front steps of the National Training Centre and the selection was announced, and it was meant to be this incredible day, but all of us knew that was like there were bigger forces at play, and so it was very bizarre. Very bizarre.
So you felt unwell. And presumably they're talking about the symptoms on the telly and the radio, and you're thinking, oh, hang on a second, I've got those symptoms.
Yeah, so it was very early days. So I lost my sense of taste and smell, but at that point they didn't know that was a symptom, and I had a dry cough, but I didn't have a temperature. So that's why people thought I didn't have COVID at that time. So it was there was real lack of information. Yeah. And I told my coach, I've got a bit of a cold. I need to take a few days off. And then kind of in the following weeks, we start to learn more about what the symptoms are. And then I was like, oh, I've had COVID, or I've got COVID. And then, but again, it was so mild. Like I was unwell and I was run down, but it was like a bad cold.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying to my coach, okay, I need another few weeks. I need another few weeks to return to training. And I just wasn't getting better, basically.
So you carried on training for, a good 18 months. And then you had a relapse. Things were pretty bad. You did your very best, and credit to you. You kept thinking, I can get through this, but it's plagued you. Just describe how that felt, having to retire.
I mean, it was really devastating. I just couldn't. You can't really wrap your head around it. Like, how am I still sick? I had a mild infection like years ago, and I'm still sick. But I mean, I would also say in hindsight, like the rowing and retiring from the rowing was incredibly hard. But actually what has been most difficult is just like totally losing my ability to function. Like there was months where I couldn't kind of do household tasks, cook 3 meals a day. And I lost my ability to participate in normal life. And that has really been the most difficult thing.
How do you go forward from something like this? Obviously, you've got involved, and well done to you, in highlighting long COVID and some of the issues that come from it. But for you personally, how do you negotiate the future?
It's very uncertain. I'm a lot better now, but I'm still managing symptoms on a daily basis. And I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever get my health back. So it's kind of taking every day as it comes. I am quite involved with the long COVID community and kind of doing advocacy work, which is really brilliant. And I think my story and the fact that like I was very fit and healthy is an important one to combat the many misconceptions around this illness. So I'm pleased to be able to do that, and that's definitely something good that's come out of this. But yeah, the future's very uncertain.
I think you're absolutely right. It's all the more important to talk to you as a very fit person about what has happened to you. Here's the thing, the pandemic, it's reports have said we weren't prepared for it. The government stopped preparing for it, incredibly, because there was always the chance that one would come along. What about now? Do you think we are prepared for another one and the potentially for more long COVID?
No. The simple answer is no. Long COVID was entirely predictable, but viruses have caused long-term health impacts, like since viruses have existed. But yet we didn't see it coming, and it was patients that had to raise the alarm. And we're in a slightly better place. Sorry, that's too strong. We are in a slightly better place. There has been quite a lot of research that's done to understand long COVID, but we are still quite far from treatments or actual healthcare that can help people. Yeah. And NHS services are still not equipped for these type of illnesses either. So, it's really important. Like, we've made this huge error of not being prepared for the debilitating impact of this virus. Let's at least learn from it. Let's make it better so that next time there's not so many people that are affected. But yeah, I don't think we've done that yet.
Oonagh, thank you so much for sparing time to talk to us today, and all the best for the future. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much.
Oonagh Cousins there. You can find more about that charity at www.longcovid.org, longcovid.org. And if you go on the NHS website and government websites, you'll find more there about help and support if you have long COVID.